You won't believe what this HOA Karen did when she saw me walking with my 3-week-old baby. This psycho actually pulled out pepper spray and aimed it at my newborn's face. But what happened next? Let's just say she never saw it coming. Because what she didn't know, I'm a session court judge. And I was about to make this the worst decision of her entire life. Before we get into this insane story, do me a favor, hit that like button if you can't stand HOA Karens who think they're above the law. And drop a comment telling me, what's the craziest thing an HOA Karen has done in your neighborhood? I read every single one. Now, let's get into this absolute nightmare. So this happened in a gated community just outside of Denver, Colorado. Beautiful place, right? Mountain views, nice houses, the whole 9 yards. My wife and I had just moved in about 6 months earlier. Everything was going great. We were expecting our first baby, getting the nursery ready, living the dream. Then our daughter Emma was born 3 weeks ago, and that's when this nightmare began. Enter Patricia. This woman was the HOA vice president and thought she literally owned every square inch of the neighborhood. We're talking about someone who would measure your grass with a ruler, walk around with a clipboard at 7 a.m. taking notes, and send violation letters if your trash cans were visible for more than 2 hours after pickup. This lady was straight up unhinged. But I'm a pretty chill guy. I'm a session court judge, so I deal with actual criminals all day. I figured I could handle one overzealous HOA board member. But was I wrong? One sunny afternoon, I'm taking Emma for a walk in her stroller. You know, being a new dad, getting some fresh air. I'm walking down the sidewalk in my neighborhood, and I see Patricia speed walking towards me with this look on her face. And I'm thinking, what now? She gets right up to the stroller, looks at my 3-week-old baby, and says, I kid you not, that stroller is not an approved color according to HOA guidelines. I'm standing there like, is this woman for real? She had the audacity to police my baby's stroller color. Little did she know, I had been documenting her crazy behavior for months. But we'll get to that, because what she did next. That's when this went from annoying to absolutely criminal. So I try to keep my cool, right? I'm like, Patricia, it's a baby stroller. There's no bylaw about stroller colors, and this woman goes off. She starts running her mouth about how rules are rules and how if we make exceptions for you, we have to make exceptions for everyone. I'm standing there with my sleeping newborn, and she's literally yelling at me on the sidewalk. Then she says, I'm writing you up for this violation. That'll be $75, and I just laugh, like actually laugh, because this is so ridiculous. That was apparently the wrong move. Patricia, you think this is funny? I have the authority to fine you up to $500 per violation. Me? Patricia, you need to step back. You're waking up my baby. Patricia, don't tell me what to do. I'm on the HOA board. She got up in my face, and I mean inches from me, pointing her finger, going full psycho mode. Emma starts crying because of all the yelling. And I'm trying to calm my daughter down while this lunatic is having a complete meltdown over a navy blue stroller. But that was just the beginning, because what she did next. That's when I knew this woman was actually dangerous. So I turned the stroller around to head home, trying to get away from this crazy woman. And Patricia, she follows me. This woman is literally following me and my newborn baby down the street, still yelling about violations. I'm walking faster. She's walking faster. It's absolutely insane. Then, and I'm not making this up, she reaches into her purse, pulls out a can of pepper spray, and holds it up. She looks at me and says, if you don't stop and accept this violation notice, I will defend myself. This woman was threatening to pepper spray me while I was holding my baby. I immediately stopped and turned around. Patricia, are you seriously threatening me with pepper spray right now? While I'm with my infant daughter, Patricia said rudely, you're being aggressive. I feel threatened. I'm pushing a stroller. How is that aggressive? 2 days later, I get an official letter from the HOA. This woman actually filed a formal complaint against me, claiming I had an unauthorized stroller, was verbally aggressive, and, get this, was threatening HOA board members. She was trying to hit me with a $500 fine plus a hearing before the HOA board. My wife was recovering from childbirth, we had a newborn, and this psycho was stalking us. My wife was literally afraid to leave the house. We weren't sleeping. Well, new parents never sleep. But now it was because we were stressed about this Karen. It wasn't even about the money anymore. This woman had threatened my baby with pepper spray. That crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. This was about protecting my family and making sure she couldn't do this to anyone else. So I started digging into the HOA bylaws and Patricia's history. And what I found? Oh man, this is good. But first, I needed to handle the immediate threat, real quick. Pause and let me know in the comments, team fight back or team just move. Because I was this close to just selling the house. Also, if this story's got you hooked, hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Alright, so here's where I became a straight-up detective. And remember, I'm a judge. I know exactly what kind of evidence holds up. Going through every single HOA bylaw, all 93 pages of mind-numbing rules. And guess what? There's nothing about stroller colors. Not one word. She literally made it up. Requesting all HOA board meeting minutes from the past 3 years, which, by law, I'm entitled to as a homeowner. Patricia tried to block this, but I cited the state statute that requires HOA transparency. She had to hand them over. Talking to other neighbors, and oh boy, did they have stories. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. Patricia had been terrorizing the entire neighborhood for years. And guess what I discovered? This Karen had been running her own little dictatorship. The more I dug, the worse it got. I'm talking massive violations of HOA law, abuse of power, you name it. She was breaking the same rules she tried to enforce on everyone else. Oh, it gets better. One neighbor told me Patricia had threatened her with pepper spray 6 months earlier when she planted roses in her front yard. Roses, people. Another neighbor said Patricia had been fining people for violations that weren't even in the bylaws. She was just making stuff up and pocketing the money. But I needed proof, solid proof that would hold up not just in an HOA hearing, but in actual court. Because I wasn't just going to get her kicked off the board. I was going to make sure she faced real consequences. So I filed a request for all financial records, and that's why I caught her. So one evening, I'm reviewing the financial records that the HOA treasurer finally sent me, and Patricia had fought hard to keep these hidden. I'm going through line by line, and something doesn't add up. There are dozens of violation fines listed, but the amounts don't match what's in the bylaws. I start cross-referencing with the meeting minutes, and holy crap, this woman had been issuing fake fines. She'd fine people for violations that didn't exist, collect the money, and there was no record of it going into the HOA account. Embezzling HOA funds, she had been writing checks to herself for HOA supplies that never materialized. We're talking about $15,000 over 2 years. Violating multiple HOA bylaws herself, she had an unpermitted deck, her house was painted a non-approved color, and she was running an Etsy business from her home, which was explicitly banned for everyone else. This woman had been playing everyone. She got caught. There was nitrogen monoxide way she could talk her way out of this. I had her dead to rights. But here's the kicker. I also pulled up the neighborhood security camera footage from the day she threatened me. Our HOA has cameras at every entrance and along the main streets. And there it was, clear as day, Patricia pulling out pepper spray and aiming it toward me and my baby. Now, I could have just reported this quietly to the HOA board. But after everything she put me and my family through, after she threatened my 3-week-old daughter with a chemical weapon, no, I wanted everyone to know what kind of person was running their neighborhood. So here's what I did. Before I tell you how I exposed her, quick question. What would you have done? Comment below, and if you're eating this drama up, smash that like button. Seriously, it helps more than you know. Now let's get to the good part. So there's an emergency HOA meeting coming up in 2 weeks. The one where they were supposed to hear my case about the stroller violation. Perfect timing, but I had other plans. I prepared a complete legal brief. I'm talking 47 pages of evidence, financial records, security footage, bylaw citations, witness statements, the whole 9 yards. I wasn't just showing up to defend myself, I was showing up to enter. I also did something else. I filed a police report about the pepper spray incident. Because threatening someone with a weapon, that's assault. And threatening someone while they're with an infant, that's going to get a prosecutor's attention real quick. I made sure the police report was filed 3 days before the HOA meeting. The day of the meeting, I walk into the community center and there's probably 60 people there. Biggest turnout in HOA history. Word had gotten around that something big was going down. Patricia sees me walk in with a briefcase and her face goes white. She had nitrogen monoxide. Idea what was about to hit her. The air was thick with anticipation. You could cut the tension with a knife. Other neighbors who'd been terrorized by Patricia were whispering, wondering if I was actually going to take her down. Patricia was sitting at the front table with the HOA president and treasurer, and she kept looking back at me, trying to act tough, but I could see her hands shaking. So the meeting starts, and the HOA president calls it to order. He says, "We're here to discuss the violation filed against Mr. Anderson regarding an unauthorized stroller," and I can see Patricia sitting there with this smug look, like she's already won. The president asks if I want to say anything before they vote on the fine. I stand up, I look directly at Patricia, and I say, "Actually, I have quite a bit to say. And I think everyone here needs to hear this." I open my briefcase and start laying it all out. First, there is no bylaw anywhere in our 93-page HOA guidelines that mentions stroller colors. Patricia made up this violation. Here's the entire section on outdoor equipment. Not one word about strollers. The room goes completely silent. The HOA president is flipping through his copy of the bylaws, and I can see him realize I'm right. Second, when I politely pointed this out to Patricia, she followed me and my 3-week-old daughter down the street and threatened us with pepper spray. I have security camera footage. I play the video on my laptop. You can see everything. Patricia pulling out the pepper spray, pointing it, saying she'd use it. Multiple people in the room actually gasped. One woman puts her hand over her mouth. Third, this isn't the first time Patricia has done this. I have sworn statements from 5 other residents who she's threatened, harassed, or issued fake violations to. She's been running a reign of terror in this neighborhood. And finally, and this is the big one, Patricia has been embezzling HOA funds. Over the past 2 years, she's stolen approximately $15,000 from this HOA through fake fines and fraudulent expense reports. Here's every transaction, cross-referenced with bank statements. The look on Patricia's face, pure panic, like a deer in headlights. She tried to interrupt me, stood up and yelled, "This is slander." But the HOA president told her to sit down and be quiet. The other board members were looking at the financial documents I'd passed out, and you could see their faces changing. The treasurer looked like he was going to be sick. People in the audience were whispering, "I knew it," and she did the same thing to me. Then Patricia started making excuses. There must be some mistake and those records are incorrect, but I wasn't done. "Patricia, I'm not just some random homeowner you can bully. I'm a session court judge. I know the law, and what you did. Threatening a minor with a chemical weapon is assault with a deadly weapon. Embezzlement is a felony. I filed a police report 4 days ago. There are 2 detectives outside waiting to talk to you after this meeting." Patricia shouted at you, "You can't do this. I have rights." I replied coldly, "You're absolutely right. You have the right to remain silent, and I strongly suggest you use it." The entire room erupted. People were standing up, yelling about their own experiences with Patricia. One guy literally started a slow clap. The HOA president banged his gavel trying to restore order. Now, you'd think Patricia would just shut up and lawyer up at this point. But oh, nitrogen monoxide, this woman actually stood up and tried to flip it on me. She claimed I was lying, that I had fabricated everything, and that I was the one who should be fined. And that's when the HOA president said something I'll never forget. So after I dropped all that evidence, the HOA president immediately called for an emergency vote. Patricia was removed from the HOA board effective immediately. Unanimous vote, including the one board member who was her friend. All fines she had issued in the past year were void and refunded. We're talking about over $20,000 being returned to homeowners. The HOA board voted to pursue legal action against her for embezzlement and to file their own police report. Patricia was sitting there distraught. Her face was red, tears streaming down, and she kept saying this isn't fair over and over. She tried one last time to defend herself, stood up and said, "You're all going to regret this." But the HOA president just said, "Patricia, I'm going to need you to leave the property now, or I'll have to call the police." She grabbed her purse and stormed out. She got wrecked, absolutely demolished. There was nitrogen monoxide coming back from that. Justice served. Within 3 weeks, Patricia was arrested and charged with embezzlement felony and assault misdemeanor. Her trial is scheduled for next month, and the prosecutor told me it's an open and shut case. She had to pay back the $15,000 she stole, plus penalties and legal fees. The HOA also filed a civil lawsuit for additional damages. Her lawyer tried to get her a plea deal, but she refused because she didn't do anything wrong. Her funeral. The entire HOA board was restructured, new elections were held, and several of Patricia's enablers were voted out. The new board actually revised the bylaws to prevent this kind of abuse from ever happening again. As for me, my stroller violation was not only dismissed, but the new HOA board formally apologized to me and my family. They even sent flowers to my wife, and the best part, remember all those security cameras that caught Patricia threatening us? The HOA upgraded the entire system, and now there's even better coverage. No Karen can hide anymore. Last I heard, she's facing up to 3 years in prison if convicted on all charges. Her husband filed for divorce 2 months after everything came out. Turns out she'd been hiding the embezzlement from him too. She had to sell her house in the neighborhood to pay for legal fees. And honestly, she brought it all on herself. She messed with the wrong one. I'm a judge, baby. I literally do this for a living. She thought she could bully me, threaten my child, and get away with it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's what happens when you cross the line from annoying to criminal. So, did Karen get what she deserved? Let me know in the comments. And if you loved watching this Karen go down hard, hit that like button. Look, here's the thing about HOA Karens. They thrive on intimidation. They count on you not knowing your rights, not reading the bylaws, and not fighting back. Most people just pay the fine or deal with the harassment because it's easier than fighting. And that's exactly what Patricia counted on for years. The lesson: here's what you need to know. Read your HOA bylaws cover to cover. Know what's actually in there versus what some power-hungry board member claims is in there. Document everything. Dates, times, photos, videos, written communications. If there's one thing I learned as a judge, it's that documentation wins cases. Know your legal rights. HOA board members aren't above the law. Assault is assault. Embezzlement is embezzlement. Threatening a child is never okay. Don't let anyone push you around in your own neighborhood. Document everything. Know your rights, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And if you can't fight back alone, find allies. I guarantee you're not the only one being targeted. Because at the end of the day, we all deserve to live in peace, without some power-hungry Karen making our lives miserable, especially when you're just trying to take your baby for a walk. If you made it this far, you're obviously loving these HOA Karen justice stories. I've got tons more where this came from. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Next video, an HOA Karen tried to bulldoze my memorial garden for my late mother because it wasn't approved landscaping. What I did to her will make your jaw drop. You're gonna flip when you hear this one. Drop your own HOA horror stories in the comments. The craziest one gets featured in an upcoming video. And seriously, if you've dealt with an HOA Karen who threatened your family, I want to hear about it. Thanks for watching. If you want more Karen justice, check out this video where an HOA president tried to steal my parking spot. Big mistake. And this playlist has all my wildest HOA Karen stories or entitled People Get Absolutely Owned. Until next time, stay strong, document everything, know your rights, and don't let the Karens win. Remember, they only have as much power as you give them. Peace out.